Now, welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes, as always. And let's get right to the news.
All right. We do have some Star Wars we're going to talk about at one point, but first we're going to talk about...
At one point, yes.
But first, let's talk about something that's very fresh and new. The new Lord of the Rings trailer, Rings of Power, has dropped. The one they're calling the main teaser.
Yeah, and if you don't care about this, use the chapter feature. Just skip ahead to the Star Wars talk. Not a ton of Star Wars talk today, anyway. So, all right. So let's dig right in. New trailer. Lord of the Rings dropped. This is like you said, their kind of main trailer. I think it's called.
That's what it was called. Main teaser or main trailer. Yeah.
All right. So I will let you open. What did you think?
I thought it was beautiful. It was cinematically scoped. It was very large. You know.
Yeah.
Like, bringing something this big to a small screen almost feels unjust in some ways.
Well, if you spend $1 billion, you better bring something pretty impressive to the small screen.
Right, but because of the scope and the scale they're using, I feel like I would have rather seen this in the movie theater.
Yeah, I mean, I think certain things are just better suited than the big screen. You know, the whole experience of going there and seeing down the giant... Most people obviously have larger screens in their homes anyway, but there's something to still be said for the big screen and the sound that'll shake you right out of your seat. Not that people don't have that at home too sometimes, but no, I tend to agree. Sometimes I think, you know, certain things just belong in the theater, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the case here. It's hard to really... I don't know. Maybe, is it just you're just kind of a lot of the newer stuff just has this sheen to it. Like, obviously it's going to get compared to the original Lord of the Rings series, which is an absolute masterpiece. And there's just something about watching that film that just feels more gritty, more real than even... And I'm not saying this doesn't look impressive, because it does. Let's be fair and honest. But there's just this sheen to it. I don't know if that makes any sense, or if anybody else sees what I see, or if I'm just getting old and my vision's gone.
The wars haven't happened yet, and they're coming from a place of prosperity now?
It does feel a little cleaner, I think, too, but that's not exactly what I mean. I'm talking the actual just effects, the actual just...
Oh, because it's a lot of CGI. That's...
Yeah.
Too.
There's just something, and The Hobbit had the same problem. The Hobbit looks like it's different from The Lord of the Rings, and they're only a decade apart, more or less, in terms of release, yet there's just something about the way the films even looked, back then. And again, maybe I'm just old, maybe I'm just complaining about something
I do think that there is a change in the filming industry, that they're going with more CGI effects, things like the volume where it's a screen showing you the background rather than actually seeing things.
The film itself just looks cleaner. And I'm not just saying like the scenery in the actual film, which, yes, it does look a little maybe too clean at times compared to, original Lord of the Rings, but there's just something, I don't know, something that's a little off about it these days. Maybe I'm crazy. But no, but getting to it, it does look impressive. I'm not gonna say it doesn't look pretty incredible, not especially for television, to spend that kind of money on a television series.
Right. One thing, like I said, this is coming from an awkward place between you and I. I've read Lord of the Rings. I have a giant edition of it. I actually love the book.
You have your very nice leather bound. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
It is a beautiful addition to my collection.
Well, I thought it was our collection. Wait a second.
That book? No.
Hey, we're married. We share everything, even
not that book.
Leather-bound books. Nope. All right.
And I have a nice edition of The Hobbit as well.
You do? Yes.
Yes. I've never read beyond those two at this point in my life. I haven't read The Silmarillion. I haven't read The Unfinished Tales. I haven't read all of the extra lore.
In other words, you are the target audience for this series.
Yes, I'm someone who's watched Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, though I didn't care for the movies as much, but I've read The Hobbit, I've read Lord of the Rings, I've seen those movies. To me, and I hate saying this because I know some people are upset, to me it looks awesome. Because I don't know the lore.
Exactly. I mean, that's, again, and I'm not trying to sound mean-spirited, but that you are exactly the type of person that this show is being created for and marketed for. And I'm not saying...
They're banking on a lot of people not reading the Silmarillion, which I've heard reads like a VCR manual.
Kinda. It's not an easy read. It's not like sitting down and reading The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, especially The Hobbit. The Hobbit is very lighthearted and fun.
Very.
A kid's book, more or less. I mean, maybe a kid's book from 100 years ago, but it's still, it still like reads younger.
Some pages. It does read very young. It's cool.
But it's a great read. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, talk crap about it. It's a fantastic book. But The Silmarillion is it's a tough read. It's not something that everybody's going to sit down. It reads more like an encyclopedia than an actual story at times. So, and there's a lot of names. There's one name after another, and there's it covers so much history. It's fantastic, but it's not for everybody.
So, yeah, meanwhile, I'm watching the trailer, and I'm like, this looks really cool. Is this wrong? This looks really cool. Is this wrong?
Well, they're
so many things looked really cool. I'm like, look, these are the ancestors of the hobbits. And you're like, hobbits aren't supposed to be here.
They're
I'm
not
like,
in the second age, yes.
And then I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. And you're like, that's not right either.
But no, that's exactly who. And like I said, I'm not saying you can't be the biggest, Tolkien expert and absolutely adore and love what this ends up being. I'm not saying that, but they are banking on the fact that a small percentage of the people who watch this will know the actual history. I mean, it's the same as Star Wars, right? They make shows that really aren't designed for the more knowledgeable fan. They make them for the more casual fan.
They're making for, hey, I saw Rogue One, so now I'm going to watch watch Andor.
Yeah.
Or, I've seen this, so I can watch this now. Not the person who's like, well, I've read all of your books, and you're contradicting yourselves.
I mean, Kenobi is the perfect example, right? Kenobi is made for, I hate to use this terminology, but it's made for the lowest common denominator. It's made for the lowest common denominator, right? It's made for the basic of basic knowledge. It doesn't really go that far into any kind of lore, does it? It's here's the story. And
it skims along the surface.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you can't be the most devoted and hardcore fan and have loved Kenobi. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but it's made for casuals, for better or worse. It's made for people who want to see lightsabers and want a really kind of fun, frivolous story. Because
they are under the impression that the deeper you try to go to please the people who've read all their lore, the less casuals you'll get.
Yeah.
Which isn't always the case. You can tell a great story without upsetting either group. They just don't dig for it.
I think we can go back to the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, are there things left out? Yes. Are there things that are changed? That elves showing up in Helm's Deep always bugs me. Sam leaving Frodo never happens in the book. I mean, he never turns away from him. Yes, they do get split up, obviously.
They got split up, but they don't. Yes.
Yeah, but Sam would never leave Frodo, no matter what. And so there are things that bug me, but overall, fantastic, and it's deep. I mean, those movies are deep into the lore, and they're long, and they are,
And it's what's funny is they actually made a huge change in the story, but it was really for the better. I feel the one where the timeline. They sped everything up.
The hastening of the timeline, yeah.
Because the books, Hobbit's got...
That's years go
by. Frodo's got the ring for like 30 years or something. He's just like...
It's not quite that long, but yeah.
He's got it for... In the travel time, they condensed to kind of show that they were in a hurry, that this is a haste type situation, rather than the leisurely travel that they were doing.
You don't get the same sense of urgency in the book. Certainly not. The first chapter of the Fellowship of the Ring it was a giant party for like 30 pages, and then Gandalf leaves for like years. And Gandalf leaves for years and finally comes back. It's like, hey, we should probably do something about this ring.
Gandalf probably left for a couple months to,
which feels like that makes more sense, right? Because he's like, oh, this could be the One Ring. I better go check into this. Oh, it is the One Ring. I better get back and do something about this. Mm-hmm. And yes, he does get waylaid by, Saruman and all these things too. But so it does.
I was delayed.
But I arrived precisely when I meant to.
Exactly.
But no, I think this is going to be a really interesting series because it is. We already know they don't have the rights to. They have the rights to, I believe, the appendixes for the Lord of the Rings, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So we already know it's not going to be very lore accurate.
I watch it and I get excited because I was like, look at that fireball at one point. I'm like, oh, look at that. I'm like, I think that's one of the wizards arriving on the. And you're like, no, it shouldn't be. I'm like, but it is. It's one of the wizards arriving.
Yes. I mean, like I said, it's. I don't know. I
almost don't want to read the Silmarillion now because I don't want it to spoil.
Well, you might just read it after. Show. Read it after, and then compare.
That way you can get the. I'll bust it out before.
I know how you work. You can't.
Yeah, I just busted out the Sandman comics.
Yeah, you did. You really enjoyed those.
I've gone through 2 of the omnibus volumes, which will be more than enough to cover season 1.
But no, I mean. I have no idea what to expect out of the show. I don't know. I don't. Obviously, been very controversial already, considering some of the comments made by the showrunners talking about how they want it to reflect the modern world when
it should never I don't know.
No,
Things set in the past don't need to reflect the modern world because they're not set in the modern world.
Yeah,
we have enough set in the modern world.
Exactly. We want to. I mean, I can look out the window and see the modern world, right? And I'm not saying you can't have a good commentary about the modern world at times. That you can't create fantasy that is a commentary on the modern world. But this wasn't written to be a commentary on our modern world. This is
everything seems to be like I want to be a commentary on the modern world. I'm like, well, maybe I don't want you to be. Maybe I just want to be enjoying
I want it
my
to be a
high
reflection
fantasy.
of Tolkien's work because that's what it should be. That's what they did with the original Lord of the Rings, and it wound up being one of the best 2 trilogies ever created.
And because
or 3, I don't know.
Because it doesn't reflect the modern world it came out in so much, it reflects the ideals in the books, which is great because I think that holds generational like rewatchability.
Yeah,
because
well, I mean,
it has big themes in it. You know, the nature versus industry themes about
there
greed.
are, but I mean, he didn't even make. I mean, you know, Tolkien has said he doesn't like allegory. He doesn't like that sort of thing. So even though it does have those themes of nature versus industry, even though we can debate a lot of the themes in there,
showing like the purpose of self-sacrifice and all. It has some great lessons and themes in it.
Yeah, the lessons. I mean, the fellowship. I mean, the friendship. What you can, what a common person can achieve by
even realizing your own shortcomings. Like when
is that a Hobbit joke?
No, when Aragorn's like, I would have been with you to the end when they split up.
Well, I mean, that's not actually in the book per se, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Sure,
I'm talking about the rewatchability for the shows because that's most likely what you're going to start by introducing people to.
Yeah.
I think before you go, hey, now you want to read it?
You want to read it? You're going to be disappointed. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to, as usual, I'll go into it as open-minded as possible. And if it's good, I will say as much.
More open-minded than
it's going to be, I think we'll certainly review this because I think it's going to be really interesting to get the 2 conflicting points of views here. And mind you, I don't consider myself a Tolkien expert by any stretch. I have read most of what's out there, and I've read The Lord of the Rings multiple times, read The Hobbit multiple times, so I'm not as knowledgeable as I am on, say, Star Wars, but certainly would consider myself pretty decently educated when it comes to it.
Now I just gotta get you to read Harry Potter.
Yes, well. Alright, well, I guess we should move on to Star Wars.
Yeah, now that we're like, we're gonna be like 10 some minutes in the video at least by now?
At least, I think, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to our first Star Wars story today. Star Wars scored 5 Emmy nominations for the upcoming Emmy season. It's the 74th edition of the Emmys, by the way. Star Wars Visions is being nominated for Outstanding Short Form Animation Program, and The Book of Boba Fett earned 4 nominations. But don't worry, they're all in the technical categories. For some reason, none of them got nominated for story.
We didn't get nominated for best original story?
Or actors, or actresses, or... Anything, or even music didn't get nominated, did it? No. Okay, so it got category of Outstanding Sci-Fi/Fantasy Costumes. Episode 1 was nominated, Stranger in a Strange Land. In the category of Outstanding Sound Editing for a Comedy or Drama, Chapter 6 got nominated.
Which one is it? A comedy or a drama?
In the category of Outstanding Special Visual Effects in a Season or Movie, the whole series got nominated. In the category of Outstanding Stunt Coordination for a Drama Series, Limited or Anthology Series or Movie, it also got nominated. Yep.
All right. I mean, sure. I always root for Star Wars, so...
Let's do some comparisons, though. Mandalorian Season 1 got 15 nominations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going downhill is what you're telling me.
15 for Season 1.
Star Wars Lucasfilm is getting lazier as we go. I would have never guessed that.
Season 2 got 24 nominations.
Well, I mean, Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and I kind of lumped those two together as being so far the pinnacle of, Lucasfilm and the Disney era Star Wars. Those two series are both really... I mean, the second one, do we kind of get the cameo of the week? Yeah, okay, you can argue that, but still really good. Still great stories overall.
Right. As for Visions, Disney had already submitted one of the shorts. They've submitted The Village Bride for Oscar consideration in the category of Best Animated Short, but it actually didn't end up earning a spot for a nomination. The Duel did get a nomination at the Annie Awards, but it lost to an episode of Arcane.
Okay. Arcane's fantastic.
I can see it. Arcane was phenomenal. Okay. The series is now being recognized as a whole by the Television Academy. It's going to be going up against Netflix's Love, Death, and Robots.
Which we've been told is really good.
Yeah,
Haven't watched yet.
It might lose out to them. HBO Max's Robot Chicken, which
God,
I can't imagine. For some reason, I can't imagine Visions losing to Robot Chicken.
I love Robot Chicken, though. So
I know, but it seems like no, I don't want it to lose to that. Amazon's The Boys presents Diabolical.
Which we haven't seen.
No. And Disney's When Billy Met Lisa.
Which I don't know what it is.
It's The Simpsons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a Simpsons episode special they made.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched The Simpsons in like 60 years, so no, I've seen a few here and there.
So, Visions, The Book of Boba Fett, and Bad Batch were the only Star Wars series eligible for this year's Emmys. Obi-Wan will fight for a nomination in the next year, alongside Andor, Mandalorian Season 3, and maybe even Ahsoka, depending on its release. On the animation side, Bad Batch Season 2, Tales of the Jedi, and Visions Volume 2 will all be available, or eligible, I should say, next year, if no changes are made to the release schedule.
Just tells you how crammed this coming year is compared to the previous year.
So the 74th edition of the Emmy Awards will be held on Monday, September 12th. We'll see if any of these shows manage to scoop out any of the 5 they've been going for.
5, yeah. Well,
if Visions gets theirs, I'll be a happy camper. I think Visions deserves more recognition.
I really liked Visions, yeah.
Yeah.
Not saying I didn't like anything else, but...
Grumpy old Thor didn't like anything else.
I know, I always get accused of hating everything Star Wars, and people just ignore the fact that there's so many things
but
I actually do enjoy. I loved Visions. Like I was saying before, Mando Season 1 and 2, fantastic.
Even
Bad
their
Batch
worst
was
episode
good.
was better than...
Rebels has been good. Rogue One. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Somehow I hate everything Disney Star Wars, but I don't. All right, well, I guess that's all we got for you this time. I think we had another minor story, but we can save it for tomorrow about the newer or upcoming book, The Princess and the Scoundrel.
One of the
cruise,
books.
The Love Boat.
Oh, don't call it that.
But no, that's all we got for you this time. I think we talked a little longer about Lord of the Rings than anticipated. So leave your comments below. Tell us what you thought of the Lord of the Rings. No, it's not called Lord of the Rings. I can't call it
The Rings of Power.
Rings of Power trailer. Yes, get it right.
It is called Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh.
So you can call it The Lord of the Rings.
See, I was right.
But referring to it as The Rings of Power might help.
Yes, The Rings of Power. Tell us what you thought of the trailer. Tell us
do you want to hear us talk about it?
Yeah, do you want us to? Yeah, I mean, I love talking about Lord of the... That's kind of the original...
Because you're going to get us talking about it whether you like it or not.
That and Star Wars and some comics, that's kind of what got me to, well, where I am today, I suppose. But anyway, and D&D. Who can forget about D&D? I am the classic nerd, I guess. But anyway, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power. And until next time, thanks for watching.